Hello and welcome to our podcast for college Catholics. I am your host, Father Patrick Wainwright. I'm a priest of Miles Christi, a Catholic religious order, and today I'm really grateful that you're joining me. And first of all, I want to thank you all who are listening to this podcast, because thanks to you, we have reached 3,000 downloads, and that's quite a bit. It's a landmark, and I hope to continue providing these weekly episodes, providing insights on our Catholic faith, helping you learn and refresh the knowledge of God's revelation to man done through the Catholic Church. I not only do frequent presentations on the Catholic doctrine in this podcast, but also present testimonies of individuals and examples from the lives of the saints. And today I am bringing in a guest, Matthew, who graduated from UCLA with a major in psychology. He is now about to start his third year as a focused missionary, and he will be serving the college students at Western Washington University. He participated a couple of times in the spiritual exercises preached by the priest of Miles Christi. Once it was a 3-day retreat, and the second time it was a 7-day retreat. So, welcome Matthew. How are you doing?
Father Patrick, thanks for having me on once again. I'm doing really well. I'm here in Los Angeles, and I am gearing up to move my entire life up to Bellingham, Washington, just in a few days. So I'm very excited. Mm-hmm.
Awesome. So that's where you will be. How long will you be staying there? Working as a missionary, right?
That's right. As long as God wants me there. So that is at least for this academic year, and we'll see what happens beyond that. But yeah, so I'm very excited to get going.
Very good. Well, and I wanted to share with you and also all those who are listening that this coming week, our community here in Michigan will be doing its week-long annual retreat. According to the spiritual exercises of St. Ignatius of Loyola, these retreats are done in an atmosphere of silence. All right. So we will be, in silence, and not only external silence, which is important, but also the interior silence of not communicating, because sometimes you can be in silence, but still texting or reading stuff or listening to radio and so forth, or reading emails with news and so forth. The idea would be to be, for this coming week, in silence and not reading, not communicating, except for with your director and your spiritual director. So I wanted to give a little bit, in this episode, a little bit of insight. Also share with your experience, Matthew, about the spiritual exercises. And as a little intro, before we go into your experience with the spiritual exercises, I wanted to say that we're also coming up on the feast of St. Ignatius of Loyola. That will be July 31st, which is an important feast day for our community and, of course, for the Society of Jesus. The St. Ignatius of Loyola lived from 1491 to 1556, and he is the founder of the Society of Jesus. In Miles Christi, we consider St. Ignatius of Loyola as our master of the spiritual life, which means that we use his writings and his spiritual principles as an inspiration for our spirituality, the spirituality of Miles Christi and all of our members. So St. Ignatius was born in northern Spain, a town called Aspatia, and during his youth and adult years, he dedicated himself to a military career. However, his life changed dramatically when during a battle with the French army in Pamplona, a city near northern Spain, near where he was born. A cannonball severely wounded his leg, so he was taken out of combat. And the French, surprisingly, because you're saying, okay, they were in war, but surprisingly, they dedicated a couple of people to take him to his house. And there, during his recovery, and again, I'm summarizing a little bit, but he read the book of the life of Christ, a book of the life of Christ, and also another book with the lives of the saints. And there he started undergoing his conversion. He saw how these saints were imitating Christ, and it was pretty amazing for him. He loved it. So he started to spend hours thinking about what great things he could do for God, for the glory of God. So he eventually decided that he would dedicate his entire life to the service of his supreme captain, Jesus Christ. He wasn't thinking about priesthood, but just to dedicate his life to Christ as opposed to dedicating his life to a military career, right? So the first thing he wanted to do is to do a pilgrimage to the Holy Land. And then to do that, he was in northern Spain. He went to he went to Barcelona. By the way, that's where Messi plays soccer. Sorry. So everybody knows Messi, I hope. And if you don't know Messi, check it up on Google. Messi, soccer player from Argentina, is the best, the GOAT, the greatest of all time. He's the GOAT, and for soccer, of course. Anyway, so St. Ignatius went to Barcelona. Messi was not around back then. And there he wanted to do an all-night vigil in a nearby shrine that was dedicated to Our Lady of Montserrat. There was a Benedictine monastery there. So then he stayed for 10 months at a town that is close by called Manresa. And there he prayed and he fasted. And during all that time, he had many, many spiritual graces and inspirations from God and from the Virgin Mary herself. So he took many notes, putting them together in a notebook. And this notebook and these notes were the foundation of what would become the book of the spiritual exercises. That book, the spiritual exercises, is a classic of Catholic literature and has been translated into most languages. And I would say it has been used consistently throughout more than 500 years. So, when you, Matthew, when you do the spiritual exercises, or when I do the spiritual exercises, we're participating in this centuries-old tradition of the Catholic Church that is so helpful. And that retreat has been actually done by many other saints and promoted by several saints, and even endorsed by the magisterium of the Church, particularly Pope Pius XI. He wrote an encyclical called Mens Nostra. I will put the link in the show notes. If you check the show notes below, the text that is below the episode, I will put there the link to the encyclical in case you want to read it. I would recommend that you read it, Anyway, so that tells you that it is a very reliable retreat method and very helpful to grow in holiness. So St. Ignatius eventually made it to the Holy Land after those 10 months, which was like a retreat for him. And he came back to Europe then, where he founded the Society of Jesus, and then he spent the rest of his life basically in Rome, in the government of that religious community. So the book of the spiritual exercises is basically a guide to do a retreat. It's not, you don't read it as a retreat, right? But it's a guide that helps to do a retreat. So the retreat is by default called the spiritual exercises. The original length of this retreat is 30 days. The book has notes, recommendations. It has also several methods of prayer. It has also ways to examine your conscience, outlines to meditate on the mysteries of the life of Christ, because one could consider, there were not necessarily a lot of Bibles available, so he put like a summary of the mysteries of the life of Christ and a little like outline for each mystery. And above all, what is most important of this book is that it is a structure to do a retreat that is divided in 4 periods of time. So that structure is what is most important or most helpful when one participates on these spiritual exercises retreats. So the retreat is basically divided in 4 times or 4 sections, which St. Ignatius calls weeks. And each one of those weeks has a purpose. It has like a suggested meditations for each day and so forth. So the retreat was originally meant to be done in seclusion, in silence, meaning that there should be no habitual communication with other people or reading news from the outside world, etc. Today we would add no cell phones, no social media, no technology and stuff. And that retreat would be typically done under the guidance of a director, which typically would be a priest. As time went on, as the centuries went on, the 30-day retreat, the original length, was adapted to maybe 15 days, sometimes 8 days, and now even to a weekend. And that's what we do in Miles Christi. So, Matthew, you've done the 8-day and the weekend retreat. So what was your experience during the spiritual exercises that you did in Miles Christi?
Absolutely, yeah. So, yeah, as you mentioned, my first spiritual exercise retreat ever was in Oceanside, California, with the priest of Miles Christi. You were one of the preachers on that retreat. I brought my brother with me, I remember, a few years ago. And I had been on retreats before, I really enjoyed it. I'd never been on one like this. And certainly we can get into more detail about that. One detail I do remember leaving the retreat, my brother said, "Wow, that was a lot of prayer." He was kind of exhausted, but I
Wow.
found it a little more restful. So it's funny. We kind of came away with different perspectives on it. But the one thing I will say is, having had the opportunity to go on the 8-day after being on the weekend, the 3-day retreat, I began to realize more about the original structure that St. Ignatius had with the 4 weeks, and maybe we'll talk about that a little bit more later.
Right.
But yeah, kind of incredible. And after doing it 8 days, I'm like, man, I can't imagine what it must be like to do the 30-day, how it was kind of originally structured.
Right. Right. Now, how old were you when you did the 3-day retreat?
Let's see.
Approximately.
I think I was 22 is when I did that first one. And
it was not impossible.
Not impossible, not at all. Yeah. So I had just graduated from college, and it was wonderful. It was a wonderful experience.
Wow, good. Very good. Well, so they say that the spiritual exercises are a great way to get to know and understand more in depth the meaning of life, and the meaning of life as God intended it. So what do you see when you did the spiritual exercises? What did you find to be the meaning of life, and how do the spiritual exercises present it?
Well, this is key, and this is basic St. Ignatius, which I think it must be written into that book, or the little black book, as it's called, the spiritual exercises, which is referred to as the first principle and foundation. Huge
Correct.
Part of it. It's something that I try to look at, to read, to pray with every single day. And basically within this first principle foundation, which is a part of the exercises, St. Ignatius tells us that man and woman, human beings, are created to praise, reverence, and serve God our Lord, and by this means to save our souls. And he continues in so many words basically to say that from this, it follows that everything that's created, everything on the earth, is either we need to use it insofar as it helps us to attain that end, which he said at the beginning. We need to continue to use it, utilize it, make use of it. And to the extent that it prevents us from knowing, loving, and serving God, we need to rid ourselves of it. So the exercises is kind of the theater, so to speak, that where that plays out, where you can really get to see, okay, what are those things in my life that are helping me grow closer to God and are actually pulling me away. And the exercises, like I said, is the stage where you really give God an opportunity to show you exactly what those things are, so you can live out your purpose and the meaning of all of our lives.
Right. And also I would say the spiritual exercises are like a development of that first principle and foundation, right?
Yes, that makes a lot of sense.
Very good. Well, then there's another very important topic in the spiritual exercises, which is the person of Jesus Christ, right? And knowing Jesus Christ is at the heart of our faith, is at the heart of our life as Catholics. It's also at the heart of this podcast, that we're here to learn and know Jesus Christ and love Jesus Christ better. And that's necessary for our salvation. So how would you say that the spiritual exercises provide that knowledge how did they help you actually get to know Jesus deeper and have a better personal relationship with Jesus Christ?
Yes, great question. And this is something that I did not realize until I looked at the exercises more fully, and I used kind of a companion book. The first time I went on, I didn't know about that originally the retreat was divided into weeks. And basically, right, and you might have to help me out, but if we look at weeks 1 through 4, the first week is all about sin and the devastating effects of sin, but it also talks about God's mercy.
Cleansing our soul, right, from
exactly.
sin. It's like sweeping the house a little bit before putting the furniture inside.
Right. And so you get that right off the bat at the beginning. And again, if it's a 3-day retreat, you get it. You don't get a full week of it, but you get it, in the ways that Miles Christi has, or others who are preaching the retreats, engineer it to be. But then after that, you talk about episodes in the life of Christ. So it's all about the life of Christ in the second week, so to speak.
Correct.
And then you move into his passion,
correct,
death, and then the last week is the resurrection. So
good, you got it.
the entire retreat is an extended meditation on the mysteries of the life of Christ. So imagine that when you're praying the rosary, right? That is one of the purposes of the rosary is to meditate on the mysteries of the life of Christ. So the spiritual
Right.
exercises provides ground where you're led in meditations through preaching by the priests, those that are preaching the retreat,
Right.
and then you get time to pray with all those things. So it makes it very real. And I love. I mean, I just knowing Miles Christi, every year, if I'm not mistaken, and coming out with, and yeah, maybe other orders and stuff will do it differently, but every year Miles Christi comes out with new talks. So it's new
Right.
perspectives on not so much perspectives, but yeah, fresh stories, ways to relate these things that happened in the 4 weeks to know Jesus Christ.
Right. So that's, you said it just right. The structure of the spiritual exercises is basically always similar. Let's say not the same, but similar. But every year we have new talks. So the idea is that a person could do these spiritual exercises every year, and he will always encounter new material. It will be along the similar lines. The Jesus Christ is always the same, and sin is always the same. Salvation is always the same, and God is always the same. But the perspective we put and the examples of the lives of the saints and maybe the stories or the jokes that we say are going to be different. So very good. Well, that's awesome. So then I hear people, what we always say that we also call them silent retreats. So I'm doing a weekend silent retreat, or the spiritual exercises, right? So some people are intimidated by that, especially young adults. Men and women both are intimidated by the silence, unless we have experienced it already. So what do you think? Why do you think that we should have that silence? And how can it help young men and women who are in college to have a retreat that have silence? Is it impossible, or is it worth the price, or the difficulty? Is it really useful? Do I need to have a silent retreat, or can I just not do a silent retreat and go along and everything?
Yes,
is just the same?
the silent retreat, the scary silent retreats. I remember, and I'm just trying to reflect on my experience, having gone into before I entered into different silent retreats, and I think the fear oftentimes I didn't recognize it right away, but looking back, the fear is that when I'm in silence, that's when the things that I don't want to address are come to the surface, come to the forefront.
Right,
I think we
right,
all
right.
know that, and it's a scary thing, because one thing that noise does is it does distract from that voice. I think about in Elijah in the book of Kings, right, where it talks about that God wasn't in the earthquake and the fire and the storm, but he was in this small whisper of the wind, and God really is waiting for us to put ourselves in a place where there is silence, where he can speak into our hearts ultimately. And I just know, being a college student especially, there's so much noise, and I'm not even talking about Spotify or listening to music, but just media constantly barraging you, and that's not even including the classes that you're taking.
Right, the classes and the coaches and the friends and the parties and all these expectations that you have, and deadlines, and you're always running against the clock.
Mm-hmm. Yes, the world is loud. So I think this is scary as it may seem. It's a beautiful and wonderful opportunity to just tell God in a very radical way, I'm giving you this time, and I want to hear your voice on these retreats.
Right, of course. So last input from you. You were in college, and then you also did some graduate studies, and then you also worked as a missionary with college students on college campuses, which were Oregon and now Western Washington, right?
That's right.
The Ducks, and the mascot now is?
The Vikings.
Vikings.
Go Vikes.
Awesome. Very good. So would you recommend the spiritual exercises to any college student or young adult, and why? Why do you think it is important, not just, do whatever you want, but no, why would you say it's important to do the spiritual exercises?
100%, without a doubt, I would recommend it. First of all, is just to take care of yourself, to be refreshed, to walk away, like we were saying, from a lot of that noise. And it's so easy when you're living in the world to kind of get caught up in what the world is telling you. Especially if we are Catholics and we're desiring to do the will of God, We need to give him as much time as possible. So this is God is so much more generous than we are, right? So say, hey, I'm going to give you this weekend that seems like a huge thing, which it is, and it might be a great sacrifice to step away for a few days. But God is going to bless that beyond what you can even imagine. So I would 100% recommend it. I'm going to try to get up to the retreats that if Milos Christi is going to Vancouver, which is I'll be close to Vancouver, Canada. I hope to go there and bring students with me. So
yeah,
100%.
It's a car ride away.
That's right.
Very good, very good. Well, yeah, my experience with the spiritual exercises when I was in, actually the first ones I did was coming out of high school, and the first afterwards the first year of my college career, if you want, education. My experience doing the spiritual exercises myself was that always it helps you stop, pause a little bit, and they're a great way to know God and also to deepen the knowledge of God's will for me and to know Jesus Christ better. So this is why I also, together with you, I would recommend everyone to do the spiritual exercises. And I will put down in the show notes the web address where you can find out more about the spiritual exercises and so forth. So Matthew, thank you very much for joining us today. It was great to have you.
Yeah, very, very happy to be on once again, Father Patrick. Thanks for everything that you're doing for college Catholics with this podcast.
Yes. And thank you, everyone, then, to share this time with us. Thank you for joining us. Remember to share this episode with your friends and your all those you know to help me get this message out to as many college students as possible. If you want to support this podcast, please do leave a review in Apple Podcasts so that others may be encouraged to listen as well. We will see you next week, and may God bless your day.